Dear students, we will continue on our module 4 Advances in Digital Image Processing. In today's class, we will see how we can go for finding the noise in color images, color image compressions, and how to construct image pyramids. In the previous topic of the image restoration, we have studied something about the noise. The different type of noise like periodic noise, Erlang noise, Gaussian noise, uniform noise, and also how we can estimate the noise parameters and the spatial and the frequency properties of the noise. All these things we have studied with respect to images. Of course, this can be extended to color images. So whatever we have studied, all the basic concepts of the noise model, it can be extended to the color images also. The noise content in any color image, it will be having some characteristics with respect to its color channel. And this color channel will be affected differently by different type of noise. For example, if one particular noise collection method would be by making use of the electronics, that means if I am using some electronics part of or electronics gadget, then for that particular channel, if it is going to malfunction, that means the electronic device, if it is going to not perform properly, then what happens? The noise levels will be included. This noise level, what will be included, it depends upon the strength of the illumination which is available for each of these color channels. So if the color channel strength is more, then we will also be having the noise also more. Say for example, I am making use of one CCD camera, that is the charge coupled device camera, which is consisting of the capacitors and all. So if I am using the CCD camera to take the input, that means if I am going to capture an image by using this CCD camera, then this CCD camera, it is going to reduce the strength of the illumination which is available to the red sensor if I am using one red filter. So if this CCD camera, it is using a red filter, then what will happen? The resulting red component in the RGB image will be having more noise. The CCD sensors, they are having the inherent property that they will be very noisier at the lower levels of illumination. So when we are going to collect the image, this image will be having more noise in the R factor, that is the red component. But in the green and the blue, the two components which are other than the red, they will not have much noise. In this example picture, we shall see how the noise is represented in a color image and how the noise will be carried over from when we are going for conversion from one color model to another color model. So here the figure A, it is a plane, that is the red plane. This red plane image, it is corrupted by the Gaussian noise. So here the Gaussian noise is having the mean value as 0 and the variance as 800. The figure B, it is again a green plane which is corrupted by the Gaussian noise, and the figure C, it is a blue colored plane which is corrupted by the Gaussian noise. And the last figure, that is the D figure, it is the composite RGB image where we are going to combine the red plane, the green plane as well as the blue plane, and it is now the RGB image. So here we can see that the noise what is there, it is very less noticeable because the color image, it is not showing the disturbance. If it was a monochrome image, if it was a two colored or a two shade images, then easily we could have noticed what is the disturbance over here, that is a noise. But because this is a colorful image, the noise is not very much noticeable, because the fine grain noise what we are having here, it becomes visually less noticeable when it goes to a color image. In this figure, the A, B and C, they show the result of converting the RGB image in the previous figure, that is figure 6.48D, to the HSI color model. Now we can compare and see the results with the HSI component of the original image what we had in the figure 6.39 and see how significantly the hue and the saturation components of the noisy image are degraded so much. Why this is degraded so much means it is because of the non-linearity of the cos and the minimum operations what we had applied in the equation 6.22 and 6.23. That means in the 6.22 and the 6.23 we were discussing about how we can go for calculating the H and the theta and the S by making use of the RGB color components, by making use of the cos inverse and also by finding the minimum of R, G and B. So whereas the intensity component in this figure 6.49C, it is slightly smoother than any of the other three noisy RGB component images. This is because the intensity image, it is the average of the RGB images. As we have discussed in the previous topic, it is nothing but averaging. So we can remember from the previous topic that the image averaging when we are going to do, this will also go for reducing the random noise in that particular image. When only one noise channel it is affected by the noise, then when we are converting from HSI to other color images, the noise will also be spread to the all HSI component images. So in this figure here, this is illustrated. In the figure, the A is showing an RGB image whose green image is corrupted by the salt and pepper noise, in which the probability of either the salt or the pepper it is equal to 0.05. The HSI component images in the figure B, C and D, it is showing clearly how the noise has been spread from the green RGB channel to all other HSI images. So this is not unexpected because the computation of the HSI component, it is making use of all the RGB components as we know from our previous discussion. Now we will see the color image compression. Why should we go for compressing an image and how we can go for a color image compression. The number of bits what is going to be required to represent one color, it is 3 to 4 times more than the number what is employed when we go for a gray level representation. Because in the gray level representation we will only be having from 0 to 255. But when we go for the RGB, so R will be having 8 bits, G will be having 8 bits and blue will be having 8 bits. So it is very much more than what it is considered for a gray level. So in this particular phase, the data compression has to be involved so that when I am going to store the image or when I am going to transmit the image, it will be much easier for me. So what I am going to do, so the RGB image or the CMYK and the HSI, whatever we have discussed previously, the data of any compression of these components, that is, it may be the red component, the green component, the blue component or the pixels in the RGB image, some means we have to employ so that the color information should not be lost. It should be conveyed properly. So the compression is one method where we are going to reduce or we are going to eliminate the repeated or the redundant data. We are going to remove some data which is not at all required. Some irrelevant data is there that we are going to remove out. So compression, it is covered over here to illustrate how we can go for easily depicting a color image by using less number of bits. Here we are going to see the color image compression. So this figure A, it is showing a 24-bit RGB full color image. So we know that when it is a full color image, the R is represented by the 8 bits, green 8 bits and the blue 8 bits. So totally we are having here a 24-bit RGB full color image of an iris flower, okay, in which we are having 8 bits for each of these components. So the figure B what is constructed, this is actually a compressed version of the figure A. So after compressing and then we are going to transfer, subsequently it has to be decompressed. That means we are going to again whatever has been compressed we are going to decompress it and then we are going for displaying the image. Although the compressed image is not directly displayable, so when we go for a decompressing, this will be put onto a color monitor. So the compressed image which is containing only one data bit for every 230 bits of data in the original image. So almost 230 bits of data has been reduced to one data bit. Assuming that the compressed image could have been transmitted over the internet in 1 minute, the transmission of the original image it would have required almost 4 hours. Of course, the transmitted data would have to be decompressed for viewing, but the decompression can be done in a matter of seconds because of many technologies what have come recently. The JPEG 2001 is one compression algorithm which has been used here for generating the figure B. This particular compression technique is very fast and the reconstruction of the image, you can see it is slightly blurred, but for us we are not able to make out so much of difference between the original and the compressed one. So this is the characteristics of the lossy compression techniques. So further we can reduce this particular difference also by going for different levels of compressions and improving their accuracies. Next we will go for how we can represent an image by using the wavelet and the multi-resolution processing. So previously we were seeing that the Fourier transform is the actual the method which is based for image processing for the earlier transformations. But now we have also come to the wavelet transform. This wavelet transform method is much easier to compress, transmit and analyze many images. Unlike the Fourier transform, whose basis functions are sinusoidal waves, the wavelet transforms are based on small waves which are called as the wavelets of varying frequency and limited duration. That means they will be very small. This allows them to provide the equivalent of a musical score for an image, revealing not only what notes to play but also when to play them. The Fourier transforms, on the other hand, they provide only the notes or the frequency information. The temporal information, it is lost in the transformation process. So the wavelets were first shown to be very powerful for a new approach in the signal processing in the 1987 by one person called as Malath. The multi-resolution theory, that means which can incorporate multiple type of techniques from a variety of disciplines. For example, we can include the subband coding. That means we can break a signal into number of different frequency bands. And then we can also go for the magnitude response where the mirror image of another filter will be used, that is the quadrature mirror filtering from the digital speech recognition, and how we can represent an image by using a pyramidal structure. So we can use all these type of resolutions and then we can go for analyzing the image as a wavelet. So as the name itself is indicating, the multi-resolution theory, it is concerned with how we can represent and analyze the images at more than one resolution. It can be analyzed with respect to different frequencies or different magnitudes. So different resolutions are combined over here. So we have very much advantage in this particular approach because the features that were going undetected at one particular resolution, it will be detected at another resolution. Although this imaging community's interest in the multi-resolution analysis was very much lesser previously, but now it has come very much more into importance because of number of work which has been published and it has been devoted to this particular multi-resolution techniques. So now we will examine the different wavelet based transformations from a multi-resolution point of view. Although such transformations are present in many ways, this approach it is going to simplify both in terms of mathematical as well as the physical interpretations. So we are going to begin with the image techniques that are going to influence the formulation of the multi-resolution theory. Our objective here is to understand the theory's fundamental concepts within the context of the image processing, and then also it is going to combine everything from the brief historical perspective of the methods and its application. So the chapter is entirely focused on the development and the use of the discrete wavelet transform. To see how it is very useful of the transform, examples which are ranging from image coding to noise removal and the edge detection are discussed over here. So now let us look at some of the background basics for the wavelet and the multi-resolution transformation. When we look at the images, we can see that these images will be having connected regions which will be of similar textures and intensity levels, and this will be forming one object. If the objects are small in size or they are having the colors which are low in contrast, we have to examine them at high resolutions. That means if they are very large in size or high in contrast, a view is all that is required. That means we can easily identify. If we are having both the small and the large objects, that means if I am having a low as well as the high contrast object, then what we have to do, we have to study them at different resolutions. Only then we can understand which is an object, which is a background, which is the object with the similar texture, which is the boundary, edges, everything we can make out. So this is the fundamental motivation. That means it is a fundamental requirement for the multi-resolution processing. So let us understand this picture. In this picture we are having one vase which is having a money plant, and it is kept at one particular place, and the background everything is included in the image. So if I am going to consider the histogram of various parts of this image, for example, I am having in the left side, I am having one band. So for that particular image, if I am going to plot the histogram, we know what is a histogram. Histogram is how the intensities of the colors are varying, where it is concentrated, that we are going to plot. So you can see here the higher intensity values, they we are having lot of colors over there, whereas it is very rare on the lower intensity value. So that means that particular color, that is the dominant color which is there, it is concentrated on the right hand side. So we have 4 sub images over here, and for all the 4 sub images different histograms have been plotted. So you can see here the histograms are giving in that particular sub image what are the color variations and how much it is concentrated, that has been given in the histogram. You can see here in one histogram it will be distributed evenly. In some of them it is concentrated only on the edges. It depends upon what color is present in the image. So whenever we are looking at an image, the images are nothing but mathematically we can tell that they are 2-dimensional arrays in which we will be having the intensity values with locally varying statistics, and which are going to give us the different combinations. By using these different combinations, we can make out which are the edges and which are the contrasting regions because of their abrupt features. As seen in the figure, that is the vase and the money plant what we have, that image it will be examined repeatedly in this particular remainder of this wavelet and multi-resolution processing. The local histograms, they can vary significantly from one part of the image to another. We have seen Depending upon the image, depending upon the part of the image, depending upon what is present in that image, the histogram can be different for different parts. So this is going to make a statistical model, and it is going to span over the entire image. It is very difficult to go for different parts here. So the local histograms has to be considered, but when you go for an entire image, it will be a huge task because we'll be having a bigger histogram. So we can go for representing an image by using a image pyramid. So we have seen there is a drawback when we go for a histogram representation of the image, because if the image is very big, the histogram also it will become very complex. For the entire image to represent by making use of a histogram, it becomes an impossible task. That is why we are going to move to the image pyramids. This is a very strong concept which was given by Burt and Adelson in the year 1983. They have proposed this one. It is very simple, but it can handle more than one resolution in the image pyramid. So originally it was devised for the machine vision and image compression applications. This image pyramid, it is a collection of decreasing resolution images which are going to be arranged in the shape of a pyramid. So as we can see in the figure next shown, the base of the pyramid, it is going to contain a high resolution representation of the image which is being processed. So the apex, what it will contain a low resolution approximation. As you are moving up the pyramid, both the size as well as the resolution, it is going to be reducing. This picture here, it is called as the image pyramid. In this representation, we can see that the base level will be containing a high resolution representation of the image. That means we are having here n cross n image, and that is given at the base level. And then it is decreasing when we go from the level j to the level j minus 1, and in turn it becomes less when we go for the level 0. So in the level 0 we can see, that means at the apex we are only having 1 cross 1 image. So the resolution of the image is going to be reduced. So this type of representation is called as a image pyramid representation. The pyramid's base level, what is there, it is of size 2 power j into 2 power j, or it is n cross n, where j is equal to log 2 of n. The apex level 0, that means which is a tip, that is of size 1 cross 1, and the general level j, it is of size 2 to the power of j into 2 to the power of j, where j is varying from 0 to capital J. Although the pyramid what is shown over here, it is composed of j plus 1 resolution levels. That means it is starting from the jth level and it is coming up till the 0. So it is consisting of j plus 1 resolution levels. That is, it is starting from 2 to the power j into 2 power j up till 2 to the power of 0 cross 2 to the power of 0. Most image pyramids, they will be truncated to p plus 1 levels, where p is varying from 1 to capital J, and the small j, it will be starting from j minus p and it will go up till capital J. That is, we are going to limit ourselves to capital P, which is a reduced resolution approximation of the original image. That is a 1 cross 1 approximation of a 512 by 512 image. For example, if it is of a little value. The total number of pixels in the p plus 1 level pyramid for p greater than 0, it can be written by this expression, that is n square into 1 plus 1 by 4 to the power of 1 plus 1 by 4 to the power of 2 plus up till 4 to the power of p, and this should be less than or equal to 4 by 3 of n square. Here we can see one simple system which is used for creating approximation and prediction residual pyramids. So here it is consisting of approximation filter, the interpolation filter, a downsampler and the upsampler. We can see its symbol over here. Downsampler, which is given by the down arrow mark, and upsampler by the upper arrow mark. So we can go for approximation and prediction. So we're giving an input image which is of level J, and then by making use of the filters and the upsampler or the downsampler, then we can go for the approximation and the prediction residual. This figure 7.2b, it is showing a simple system for constructing two intimately related image pyramids. At the level j-1 approximation output, it is going to give us the images needed to build an approximation pyramid. While if you go for the level j prediction residual, the output is used to build a complementary prediction residual pyramid. So it is different from how we can go for the approximation pyramids. The prediction residual pyramids, they are going to contain only one reduced resolution approximation of the input image. This input image will be at the top of the pyramid, that is, it is at the level j minus p. All other levels, they are going to contain the prediction residuals, where the level j prediction residual is defined as the difference between the level j approximation and an estimate to the level j approximation based on level j minus 1 approximation. The figure 7.2b, it is also suggesting that both the approximation and prediction residual pyramids are computed in an alternative fashion. So before the first iteration, the image will be represented in the pyramidal form and it is placed in the level j of the approximation pyramid. The figure B, it is suggesting that the approximation and the prediction residual pyramids are computed in iterative fashion. So if we are going to adopt a 3-step procedure, it is then executed for p number of times for j is equal to capital J, then j minus 1 and up till j minus p plus 1. In that order it is going to be executed. So what happens in the step 1? First we are computing a reduced resolution approximation of the level j input image. That is the input on the left side of the block diagram which is present in the figure B. So this is done by filtering, and then we go for the downsampling the filtered result by 1 factor of 2. Both of these operations, they are described next. So then we are going to place the resulting approximation at the level j minus 1 of the approximation pyramid. In the step 2, we are going to create one estimate of the level j input image from the reduced resolution approximation image what was generated after the step 1. So this is done by upsampling and then we go for filtering. That is the generalized approximation. The resulting prediction image, now it will have the same dimensions as the level j input image. In the step 3, we are going to compute the difference between the prediction image of the step 2 and the input to step 1. So this image, it will be placed in the level j of the prediction residual pyramid. So now we have two types of pyramids. First one is the approximation pyramid and the second one is the prediction residual pyramid. So when we complete p iterations, that means we start from the small j is equal to capital J and we go up till the small j is equal to capital J minus capital P plus 1. So when we complete these many number of iterations, then the level j minus p approximation output, it is going to be placed in the prediction residual pyramid which is also at the level j minus p. If a prediction residual pyramid, if it is not required, then this operation along with the step 2 and 3 which was generating the image and the upsampler, the interpolation filter and the summation what we are using, the summer what we are using, all these things they can be removed, or all these things need not be involved. So a variety of approximation and the interpolation filters can be put together into this system, which is given in the figure B. So the filtering is performed in the spatial domain. That means we are making use of a array, a two-dimensional array here. So useful approximation filtering techniques, they are going to make use of the neighborhood averaging, which is going to produce the mean pyramids. The low pass Gaussian filtering, which is going to produce the Gaussian pyramids. And this Gaussian pyramids will be not having any filtering. And this is going to result in a subsampling pyramids. Because we are making use of the spatial domain, the previous interpolation methods, that means what we had discussed, that is the nearest neighbor, the bilinear or the bicubic, all these interpolation methods, they can be incorporated here into our interpolation filter. So then at last we can see that the upsampling and the downsampling blocks which are present in this figure, they are used to double or they are used to half the spatial dimensions of the approximation and the prediction images that are computed. So if we are given an integer variable n and one-dimensional sequence of the samples, that is the f of n, then the upsampled sequence f2 of n, it will be defined as f2 of n, which is equal to f of n by 2 if n is even, or it is equal to 0 if it is not even. So here we are having the formulas for the upsampling or a downsampling. So if I am having one integer variable n, and if I am having the one-dimensional sequence of the samples, that is f of n, then the upsampled sequences, it is given by f2 of n, which is equal to f of n by 2 if n is even, and f2 of n, it is equal to 0 if n is not even. So you can see the up arrow mark here. The up arrow mark, it is giving the upsampling. So whereas when you go for the upsampling is done always in terms of the factor of 2. So the opposite of this is the downsampling. So downsampling is also done by a factor of 2. And this downsampling, it is given by f2 of n, it is equal to f of 2n. Where we can look at the arrow mark and we can see that this is the downsampling. So we have two processes over here, the upsampling and the downsampling. In the upsampling, we are going to insert a 0 after every sample in the given sequence. Whereas in the downsampling, we are going to remove the zeros after every sample. The upsampling and the downsampling blocks, what we are seeing in the block diagram, they are labeled by 2 up arrow and 2 lower arrow respectively, so that we can indicate that both the rows and the columns of the two-dimensional inputs on which they operate are to be upsampled or downsampled. Like we are having the separable two-dimensional discrete Fourier transform, what we had discussed previously, a two-dimensional upsampling and downsampling can be performed by successive passes on the one-dimension operations, which are discussed here by making use of f of 2 upsampling of n and f of 2 downsampling of n. The output figure, that is the figure 7.3, it is giving us an approximation pyramid as well as a prediction residual pyramid for the input image, which was given in the image figure 7.1. A low-pass Gaussian smoothing filter was used to produce the 4-level approximation pyramid in the figure 7.3a. Here we can see the resulting pyramid. It is containing the original, that is 512 by 512 resolution image as its base, and then on top of it we'll be having the 3 low resolution approximations. So level 2 we are having 256 by 256, then on top of that we have 128 by 128, then 64 by 64. Thus, we know that now the P is 3 and the levels 9, 8, 7 and 6, that is out of the possible log 2, that is 5, 12 plus 1, or we can say 10 levels are present. So we can see that the reduction in the detail which is accompanying the lower resolution of the pyramid is also present. That means the image will become lesser resolution one when we are moving up the pyramid. When we are having at the 512 by 512, the image is more detailed, but when we go for the lower and lower resolution, we can see the image will be of less understanding. The level 6 of the image, that is 64 cross 64 approximation image, it is suitable for locating the window styles, that is the window pane framing, but for not finding the stems of the plant. In general, the lower resolution levels of the pyramid can be used for the analysis of the large structures or overall image context. The high resolution images, they are very suitable for analyzing the individual object characteristics. Such a coarse to fine analysis, that means from rough to smooth analysis strategy, it is very useful in pattern recognition. That means we can identify all the objects which are of the same pattern and we can group them. That type of recognition can be done when we go for this particular approach, that is when we go for the image pyramids. A bilinear interpolation filter, it is used to produce the prediction residual pyramid in the figure 7.3b. That is, we are going to make use of the linear interpolation in two directions by making use of two variables. We are going to apply this one first in one direction and then we are going to apply in the other direction also. That means we are going to apply both in the x and the y direction. In the absence of any errors, if we are having any less quantization errors, then we can see that the resulting prediction residual pyramid, it can be used to generate the complementary approximation pyramid, that is in the figure 7.3a, which is including the original image without any error. If we want to do so, we have to begin with the level 6 image, that is the image with the 64 cross 64 approximation. So then we can go for predicting the next level, that is the level 7, which is 128 by 128 resolution approximation. And then we can go for adding the level 7 prediction residual. This process has to be repeated by using successive computed approximation images until we get the origin 512 by 512 image what is being generated. We can observe here the prediction residual histogram what we are having in the figure 7.3b. It is having more values around 0. That means it is having more number of peak values around 0. The approximation histogram which is present in the figure 7.3a, it is not having high peaked values. So unlike the approximation images, the prediction residual images, it can be highly compressed by making use of fewer number of bits to more probable values. So what we are going to use very frequently, for that we are going to give less number of bits. And finally we note that the prediction residuals what is in the figure B, they are scaled to make small prediction errors more visible. The prediction residual histogram, it is based on the original residual values with level 128 representing the 0 error. In this figure, that is the figure 7.3, we can see an approximation pyramid for the vase and the plant and its background. This approximation pyramid, it is called as the Gaussian pyramid because a Gaussian filter has been used here to construct it. The picture B, for the same input, that is the vase and the plant and the background, it is giving a prediction residual pyramid. The prediction residual pyramid, what we are getting here, it is called as the Laplacian pyramid because it is having a lot of similarities. When we are making use of a Laplacian filter, how it is going to appear, what we had studied in the previous topic, the same thing it is happening over here. So this is called as a Laplacian filter. You can look at the histogram here. The image intensity values, they are concentrated at the center. So we are having the image here which is coming down with respect to its resolution, and it is creating a pyramid effect. So we are having the information will be lesser and lesser noticeable, or it will become duller and duller when we go from the higher resolution to the lower resolution. That is it for today. We are going to continue in the next class. Thank you very much.